Like, how fun is it, truly? Like, how much fun are you having between those two conversations where you walk 3 steps? It's none. It's none. Welcome back to Extra Holiday Games. I'm Extra Holiday, and I actually had a thought in the between episodes. I almost feel like some of the things that don't work as intended in this game are maybe actually a little bit charming, you know? Like, I'm not saying that the game wouldn't be better without them, but specifically I was thinking about the you're running low. Yep. Let's not. Okay, let's not fight them. Okay. Specifically, I was thinking about how a lot of the time when you emote in this game, or come out of an emote for that matter, you don't actually, your character's expression doesn't change properly. Like, what's supposed to happen when you do the thumbs up emote, as you've probably seen a few times if you've been watching this series, or Violet for that matter, is that you're supposed to, the character is supposed to, you know, close one eye and smile while they have their thumb up. If you know, you might have noticed at the end of the last episode that Troopa didn't do that. Yeah, that is not intended behavior as far as I can tell. But it's, part of me is like, you know what? It's kind of cute. It's kind of cute that things, you know, this isn't exactly that the game has a few rough edges. I do think, as far as that goes, I do think probably the toughest thing is the, I mean, obviously there was the memory leak, and there were reports of severe animation glitches around the start of the game, but I assume those are fixed because I haven't heard anyone say they're still there. But I think the worst of it, of the lack of polish in this game, is probably the frame rate, and as I've mentioned before, I don't really care about that too much. So, for me, it's probably just that. Yeah, it's just a little thing there. It's just a little thing that it's like, isn't that funny? That's how I feel about it. Also, I realized that apparently the mass outbreaks that occur occasionally, apparently they reset at exactly midnight. Because it turned exactly midnight as I received that notification that said the outbreaks were changing. Just kind of funny. Kind of funny. Alright. Cool. Did we miss anything up here? We might have. We did jump directly down there. Yep, we definitely did. Okay, got me that super potion. You know, Lechonk has that animation where he, you know, flips up his ears and like stares wide at you. It reminds me of the Pokedex entry for Esper, which, by the way, Esper and Meowstic also probably, actually, you know what? I would say probably my favorite 6th gen Pokemon. But the Pokedex entry for Esper says that the reason its ears are closed and it has to keep its ears closed is because if they opened, the immense psychic power would just kill everyone in the room, basically. And that's pretty intense, you know? And the Lechonks with their ears flipping up reminded me of that. I enjoy that Pokemon has entries like that are kind of over the top. It really does, like, even if some of them are just straight up unbelievable and unrealistic, like the fact that I think they said Magcargo its body gets to like 4,000 degrees, which is literally enough to melt the ground that it walks on. It would just kind of like sink into the earth at that point. But I think the fact that there's so many just over the top, potentially exaggerated Pokedex entries, it's just, I think it's fun. It makes it seem like these creatures are actually like really powerful. What level are you? You're 24? He can take you. Little dog versus big dog. What? You couldn't beat him? I guess he is evolved. Oh. Alrighty. Where else do we have to go? I think, did we explore this area? We've done all this area at this point. Yeah, so I think we've covered everything south of Cortondo. And then north of there, we just kind of have this area. Okay. I mean, there are 1 or 2 Pokeballs that we're missing. They're not actually Pokeballs. That's one thing that I noticed in watching an Alouette play. Not this game, but BDSP. Specifically Shining Pearl, I believe, is what she's playing. Was playing. I don't know if she's still playing it. She might have beat it by now. Point is, one thing I noticed that tripped her up, and I think trips up a lot of people who start playing Pokemon fresh, is the fact that the Pokeballs on the ground aren't actually Pokeballs. They're just items. They could be Pokeballs, but they're not guaranteed to be Pokeballs. That's Kamala. They think, ooh, a Pokeball, and then they're confused when they pick it up and like, oh, you got it's full heal. That was also something that tripped her up, is that full heal does not heal HP, only heal statuses. Which, honestly, that's an understandable mistake. I can get why she would think it would heal HP. I think in any other RPG it would, but being that I've been playing Pokemon for 23 years, I know that it actually just heals statuses. Ooh, this is not a good matchup for you. Yep. I thought you might be able to learn the Fangs, which would be kind of cool. However, for now, we're going to swap into Grounchula. Saying into Grounchula is deceptively hard. Into Grounchula. Especially if you're, being lazy about your pronunciations like I usually am. I think I'm very lucky in that my accent is one that people don't ever have trouble understanding. So I can kind of afford to be a little lazy with my pronunciation and people will still get what I'm saying. I feel like if I had a different accent, it would be a lot harder. I'd have to put more effort into enunciating. Not that I shouldn't be anyway, but I think it would be a lot more necessary if I did. So I'm counting my blessings, I suppose. But I really shouldn't take it for granted. Which is why you might have noticed that I started enunciating a bit more after I talked about it. I feel like I do a pretty decent job of increasing my enunciation, speaking more clearly. without making it sound like too unnatural. But you tell me. You can write it in the comments if you want. Also, there are times where I mumble for effect, but I think a lot of the time I mumble a little too much. I go a little too deep into the mumble, and it actually turns out just being incomprehensible. That's another thing that I'm kind of perhaps a little self-conscious about when it comes to making these videos, is that I think a lot of the time, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I think a lot of the time I've been told that I use bigger words than most people do on average. Like incomprehensible, I think, is probably a good example. And for a while, I thought of that as kind of a strictly positive thing. Like, it's like, oh, it makes me sound smart. Which, I could use because ain't really much else that would give people that impression about me. But I've also come to realize that if someone isn't necessarily a native English speaker, that they might have trouble understanding what I'm saying if I use bigger, less common words. But also, on the flip side, it could also introduce those people to those words, and they could learn, right? Because there's nothing stopping someone watching this video from, Googling, like, oh, what does incomprehensible mean? Or Googling a translation from English to whatever their own language is. And of course, if we were speaking in person, I could elaborate that incomprehensible is hard to understand, which I guess I didn't really think about it, but it's kind of ironic that we're talking about not understanding. And with using the word incomprehensible as an example. But yeah, if talking to someone in person, I could just tell them like, oh yeah, it just means it's hard to understand. Which I feel like most people, or at least relatively decent at English, would get if I phrased it that way. Good berry. Good berry. Yeah. I mean, if you're thinking of making videos, you might want to think about that. About how easy to understand your speech is, because there's a lot of people out there who, in their day-to-day life speak how they speak and people understand them. But when you bring that to a wider audience, like the internet, there's a lot of people who won't be able to understand you, regardless of whether you sound normal to your peers. The people physically close to you, or the people that you interact with on a daily basis. And I think it's worth, it's worth making yourself clearer to the widest audience possible, or at least, the very least, your target audience. Which theoretically, depending on your goals, should be the widest audience possible. I don't know what you're up to, but maybe I'll figure it out next time. Because, as for this episode... Wrong button. That's a wrap. Well, get why I say that's a wrap, though, right?